My sister-in-law humiliated me with a vicious gold digger cake at my husband's birthday party in front of everyone, so I exposed her year-long affair and paternity fraud at her baby shower with a custom revenge cake. I, 29F, teach middle school English in a small town. My husband Stefan is 32 and works as a network administrator for a regional bank. We met in college when I was struggling with my laptop during finals week and he fixed it in the library. We got married 3 years ago in a simple ceremony at the courthouse because neither of us wanted to spend money we didn't have on a big wedding. We both came from families that didn't have much, so everything we have now came from working 2 jobs during college and being careful with our money. My relationship with Stefan's sister Darcy has never been easy. She's 34 and works in pharmaceutical sales, which apparently pays well based on how often she mentions her salary. From the first time Stefan introduced us at a family barbecue, Darcy made it clear she didn't think I was good enough for her brother. That day, she looked at my sundress and asked where I got it. When I told her it was from Target, she laughed and said she thought it looked designer, then added that Stefan must be spending a lot on me. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just smiled and walked away to help Stefan's mom with the potato salad. Over the next few years, Darcy continued making comments. When Stefan and I moved into our first apartment, she came over once and spent the entire visit pointing out things we had that seemed too nice for teachers and IT workers. She picked up a set of wine glasses we got as a wedding gift and asked if Stefan bought them. When he said they were a gift, she put them down and said it was good because they looked expensive. At Christmas that year, she gave everyone thoughtful gifts except me. I got a gift card to a discount store with a note that said she figured I'd appreciate saving money. Stefan noticed but never said much. He told me once that Darcy had always been protective of him because their dad left when they were young, and she basically helped raise him while their mom worked double shifts. He said she meant well even when she came across wrong. I tried to accept that explanation and kept my distance from her as much as possible. Last April, Stefan turned 32. He wanted to have a small party at our house with just family and a few close friends. We planned it for a Saturday afternoon. I spent the morning cleaning and setting up while Stefan went to pick up sandwich platters and a cake from the bakery downtown. His mom came early to help me arrange chairs in the backyard. His cousin Daniel showed up with his wife. A few of Stefan's college friends arrived. Darcy was the last to show up. She walked in carrying a large white bakery box tied with ribbon. She handed it to me without saying hello and told me she brought a cake because she figured store-bought was easier for me. I thanked her and put it in the kitchen without thinking much about it. Stefan had already bought a cake, so I figured we'd just have 2. Darcy didn't bring Harold, the guy she'd been seeing for about a year. Stefan had mentioned they were getting serious, but Darcy said Harold had to work that day. The party went fine for the first hour. People ate sandwiches and chips. Stefan opened a few gifts. His mom brought out the bakery cake and started lighting candles. Everyone gathered around the dining table. We sang happy birthday while Stefan stood there grinning. After he blew out the candles, his mom started cutting slices. Someone asked if we had another cake since there were a lot of people. I remembered Darcy's box and went to get it from the kitchen counter. I brought it out and untied the ribbon. When I opened it, I saw a professionally decorated cake with beautiful pastel flowers around the edges. Then I read the message written in bright pink icing across the top. It said, "Happy birthday, Stefan, 3 years of gold digging." I just stood there holding the box. The conversations around me stopped. Stefan's mom was the first to say something. She asked what was wrong. I turned the box around so everyone could see the cake. The room went completely quiet. Then Darcy started laughing. She said it was just a joke and that I needed to lighten up. She said if I couldn't handle family humor, maybe I wasn't cut out for this family. Stefan's face changed. He walked over and looked at the cake, then looked at Darcy. He asked her what she was thinking. She said she was thinking his wife needed to learn how to take a joke. She said everyone knew I married him because he got a good job, and she was just saying what everyone was thinking. Stefan's mom told Darcy to leave. Darcy said she wasn't going anywhere because this was her brother's birthday and she had every right to be there. Stefan went to the door and held it open. He told Darcy to get out. She grabbed her purse and left, but not before saying I had turned her brother against his own family. After she left, the party fell apart. People made excuses and left within 20 minutes. Stefan's mom stayed to help clean up. She apologized multiple times and said she didn't know what had gotten into Darcy. She said Darcy had been stressed about something lately, but that was no excuse. That night after everyone left, Stefan and I sat on the couch. He said he was sorry. He said he should have said something years ago about Darcy's comments. He said he kept hoping she would warm up to me eventually. I told him it was fine, and I just wanted to forget about it. But I couldn't forget about it. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that pink icing message. The next day, Darcy sent a text to Stefan. She didn't text me. She told him I overreacted and embarrassed her in front of the family. She said I owed her an apology for making her leave. Stefan didn't respond. I decided right then that I wasn't going to family events if Darcy would be there. I told Stefan I needed space from her, and he said he understood. 3 months went by. Darcy got engaged to Harold in July. She posted photos of her ring on social media every day for a week. Then in August, she announced she was pregnant. Stefan's mom called us immediately to share the news. She was excited about becoming a grandmother. Stefan congratulated Darcy by text. I didn't say anything. Darcy's pregnancy became the main topic at every family gathering I skipped. Stefan would come home and tell me his mom talked about baby names the whole time, or that Darcy showed everyone ultrasound pictures. In October, Darcy started planning a baby shower for December. She sent a group text to the whole family with the date and location. It was going to be at Stefan's mom's house. 2 weeks after that group text, I was scrolling through Instagram late one night while Stefan was asleep. I saw a post from a girl I went to college with. She had tagged several people in a photo from a beach trip. One of the tag names caught my eye. It was a guy named Wallace. I clicked on his profile. His photos were mostly private, but his profile picture showed him with his arm around someone. I looked closer and realized it was Darcy. I went back through the college friends' posts. She had shared several photos from that beach trip. They were all from last December, which was when Darcy was supposedly on a work trip. In one photo, Wallace and Darcy were sitting close together on the sand. In another, they were holding hands walking along the water. The timestamps showed these photos were taken exactly 1 year ago. I sat there staring at my phone. Then I remembered something. Last November, Darcy had come over to our house to drop off some mail that got delivered to her place by mistake. She used our bathroom and left her phone on the kitchen counter. It buzzed with a text message. I glanced at it without thinking and saw a message that said "miss you already." At the time, I figured it was from Harold. Now I wasn't sure. I kept scrolling through Wallace's limited public photos. I found one from 8 months ago showing him at a restaurant. The reflection in the window behind him showed someone taking the photo. I zoomed in. It looked like Darcy. 8 months ago was January, which was after she got engaged to Harold in July. That didn't make sense unless she was seeing Wallace after getting engaged. The next morning, I didn't say anything to Stefan. I spent the whole day thinking about what I'd seen. That evening, I remembered something else. 2 years ago, Darcy had borrowed Stefan's old iPad to look something up because her phone died. She logged into her email on it and never logged out. Stefan had put the iPad in a drawer and forgotten about it. I went to our bedroom and dug through the drawer until I found it. I turned it on and opened the email app. Darcy's account was still logged in. I know I shouldn't have looked through her emails. But after what she did with that cake, I couldn't stop myself. I scrolled through her sent folder. There were dozens of emails to Wallace going back more than a year. They called each other pet names. They talked about meeting up when Harold was working. They made plans for weekends away that Darcy told her family were work trips. Then I found an email from 2 weeks before Darcy announced her pregnancy. It was sent to Wallace. The subject line said "we need to talk." The email said Darcy didn't know what to do because she was pregnant and she wasn't sure if the baby was Harold's or Wallace's. She asked Wallace what he thought she should do. His response said he couldn't be involved and she needed to figure it out herself. I took screenshots of everything on my phone. Then I closed the iPad and put it back in the drawer. I sat on the bed for a long time. When Stefan came home from work, I showed him everything. He read through the screenshots without saying anything. Then he put my phone down and asked what I wanted to do with this information. I said I thought Harold deserved to know. Stefan said it would blow up the whole family. He said maybe we should stay out of it. I reminded him about the cake at his birthday. I asked him if he remembered standing there in front of everyone while his sister humiliated me. He said he remembered. I said Darcy made sure everyone saw me as a gold digger. I wanted everyone to see who she really was. Stefan said he understood but he didn't know how we would tell Harold without causing a huge scene. I said I had an idea. The baby shower was in 3 weeks. I told Stefan I wanted to go to the baby shower. He asked if I was sure, considering how things were between me and Darcy. I said, I was sure. The next day, I contacted a custom bakery 2 towns over. I sent them the screenshots of Darcy's emails. I asked them to print one of the screenshots onto edible paper and put it on a cake. I wanted the outside of the cake to look beautiful with pastel decorations, but when you cut into it, the screenshot would be visible. I also asked them to write 3 years of cheating in pink icing on top, matching the same style Darcy used on Stefan's birthday cake. They said they could do it. I paid extra for rush delivery to Stefan's mom's house on the day of the shower. Update 1: the baby shower was on a Saturday afternoon in early December. Stefan and I drove to his mom's house together. He kept asking me if I was really going to go through with it. I didn't answer. When we got there, the living room was decorated with blue and white balloons. About 20 people were there, including Harold's parents and Darcy's friends from work. Darcy was sitting in a chair that was decorated like a throne. She was wearing a blue dress with a crown that said Mom to Be. When she saw me walk in, she looked surprised. She hadn't expected me to come. I walked right up to her and gave her a hug. I told her congratulations. She thanked me but she looked confused. The shower went on for about an hour. People played games. Darcy opened presents. Harold sat next to her the whole time looking proud. His parents took photos. Stefan's mom brought out sandwiches and fruit. Then someone asked about the cake. Right on schedule, The doorbell rang. I told Stefan's mom I would get it since I was close to the door. The delivery person handed me a large white box. I carried it into the living room and set it on the coffee table. I told everyone I had ordered a special cake for Darcy. She looked surprised again and said I didn't have to do that. I opened the box carefully. The cake looked perfect. It had pastel blue and pink flowers all around the sides. The top was smooth with pink icing letters that said 3 years of cheating. Darcy's smile disappeared. She asked what that meant. I didn't say anything. I just used the knife to cut a slice from the middle of the cake. When I lifted the slice onto a plate, everyone could see the printed screenshot baked into the center layer. It showed Darcy's email to Wallace asking if the baby was his. The room went completely silent. Harold stood up and walked closer to look at the plate. He read the email. Then he looked at Darcy. She started talking fast. She said I was insane. She said I was making things up because I was jealous of her. She said the email was fake. Harold asked her who Wallace was. She said Wallace was nobody. Harold's mom asked to see the plate. When she read it, she put it down and walked out of the room. Harold didn't yell. He just picked up his coat and left. His dad followed him. Darcy started crying and saying this was all a misunderstanding. She said I had ruined everything. Stefan's mom asked me where I got that email. I told her about the iPad. I said there were a lot more emails if anyone wanted to see them. Darcy's friends started leaving. Stefan's cousin stood in the corner whispering. Darcy's mom, who had been quiet the whole time, told Darcy they needed to talk outside. They went out to the driveway. I could see them through the window. Darcy was crying. Her mom was shaking her head. Stefan and I left about 10 minutes later. On the drive home, he asked me if I felt better. I said I didn't know yet. He said he understood why I did it, but he thought our lives were about to get a lot more complicated. He was right. The next day, Darcy posted on Facebook that she was taking a break from social media for her mental health. But she didn't actually stop posting. She just changed her strategy. Instead of posting about the baby, she started posting vague messages about toxic people and fake family members. Her friends commented with supportive messages. Some of them commented on my old Facebook posts asking what kind of person would do what I did. Harold didn't post anything. He moved out of the apartment he shared with Darcy within a week. Stefan heard from his cousin that Harold was staying with his brother across town. Stefan's mom called me and asked why I did it that way. She said I could have just told Harold privately. I said Darcy didn't tell Stefan privately when she ruined his birthday. I said she wanted a public show, so I gave her a public show. Stefan's mom said she understood, but the family was splitting into sides. Some people thought what I did was justified. Others thought I went too far. Darcy's mom stopped speaking to Stefan's mom. Christmas was 2 weeks away and nobody knew how to handle it. A week after the shower, Stefan got a text from his cousin Liam. Liam works as a medical records clerk at the hospital where Darcy had the baby. He said Harold had come in and requested a paternity test. The hospital couldn't do it officially without Darcy's consent, but Harold had found a private lab that would. Liam said Harold submitted the test 3 days after the shower. 2 months went by. Darcy had the baby in February. She had a girl and named her Kara. She posted one photo of the baby on Instagram with a caption about new beginnings and moving forward. She didn't mention Harold at all. Harold didn't comment on the post. In March, Stefan ran into Harold at a gas station. Harold looked like he hadn't been sleeping much. Stefan asked how he was doing. Harold said he got the paternity test results back. The baby wasn't his. He said he filed for divorce the day he got the results. He said Darcy tried to convince him to stay anyway because he was there for the pregnancy and the birth, so he should be there for Kara too. He said he couldn't do it. He said he was moving to another state for a job opportunity and a fresh start. Stefan came home and told me everything. He said Harold seemed broken. I asked if Darcy had admitted who the father was. Stefan said Harold didn't know and didn't care anymore. He just wanted out. Update 2 by April, Darcy had stopped posting photos of Kara. Instead, she was posting long paragraphs about single motherhood and how hard it was to do everything alone. She posted about how men abandon women when things get hard. She never mentioned the cheating. She never mentioned Wallace. She just painted herself as a victim of circumstance. Then in May, she changed tactics. She made a long Facebook post that tagged me, Stefan, and several other family members. The post said I had spread lies about her to break up her relationship with a good man. She said I made up emails because I was bitter about a joke she made years ago. She said I couldn't handle someone being successful and happy. She said I had always been jealous of her career and her life. The post was public and got shared by her friends. Within a day, I started getting messages from people I barely knew. Some defended me. Others called me names. A few of my coworkers saw the post because one of Darcy's friends was connected to someone at my school. The principal called me into her office and asked if everything was okay at home. She said she had seen some concerning posts online. I told her it was a family matter and wouldn't affect my work. She said she hoped I was right. Stefan posted a comment under Darcy's post saying she needed to stop lying and take responsibility for her actions. He said he had seen the emails himself and they were real. Darcy responded saying Stefan was brainwashed by his bitter wife. Stefan's mom commented saying everyone needed to calm down and stop airing family problems online. But it was too late. The post had been shared 50 times. That weekend, Darcy showed up at Stefan's mom's house with Kara. She refused to leave. She sat on the porch crying and saying she had nowhere else to go. She said her apartment lease was ending and she couldn't afford to renew it on her own. She said Stefan's mom was her only family left because her own mom wouldn't help her anymore after everything that happened. Stefan's mom let her inside and called Stefan. Stefan drove over there and I went with him. When we got there, Darcy was sitting in the living room feeding Kara. She looked up when we walked in and immediately started crying again. She said I had destroyed her life. She said I took away her partner and her home. She said I turned the whole family against her over a mistake. She said everyone makes mistakes and I was cruel for not forgiving her. I didn't say anything. Stefan asked her if she had contacted Wallace about being Kara's father. Darcy said Wallace blocked her number after she told him about the pregnancy. She said he wanted nothing to do with her or the baby. She said Harold was supposed to be the father because he was the good one who would stay. She said I ruined her plan. Stefan's mom looked shocked. She asked Darcy if she was saying she knew the baby might not be Harold's and she was just going to let him believe he was the father. Darcy said it would have been fine if I hadn't interfered. She said Harold would have loved Kara and they would have been a family. She said I was selfish for caring more about the truth than about Kara having a father. Stefan told Darcy she needed to leave. She said she had nowhere to go. He said that wasn't his problem. Stefan's mom stayed quiet. Darcy packed up Kara's things and left. She posted about it later that night, saying her own family kicked her out while she was nursing a baby. The posts continued for weeks. My name was mentioned in at least a dozen of them. Friends stopped inviting me to things because they didn't want drama. 2 of my coworkers stopped eating lunch with me. Stefan and I stayed home most evenings because going out meant running into people who had opinions about the situation. In June, Stefan and I took a weekend trip to a cabin 3 hours away just to get away from everything. We didn't tell anyone where we were going. We turned off our phones and spent 2 days hiking and sitting by a lake. It was the first time in months that I didn't think about Darcy or the baby shower or the Facebook posts. When we got back and turned on our phones, we had missed calls from Stefan's mom. She said Darcy had been posting about wanting to end things. She said Darcy posted that she couldn't handle being alone anymore. Stefan called her back immediately. His mom said she had gone to Darcy's apartment after seeing the posts, but Darcy wouldn't answer the door. She said she called the police to do a wellness check. The police found Darcy and Kara safe inside. Darcy told them she was fine and just having a hard day. Stefan's mom said she was worried about Kara. She said Darcy wasn't coping well. Stefan said there was nothing we could do if Darcy wouldn't accept help. His mom asked if we could try to make peace with Darcy for Kara's sake. Stefan said Darcy was the one who needed to make peace by telling the truth and stopping the social media attacks. Update 3 in July, Stefan's cousin posted in the family group chat that Darcy's apartment building had a for rent sign with her unit number on it. Stefan's mom went to check. The apartment was empty. Darcy had moved out without telling anyone. Her phone number was disconnected. Her social media accounts were all deactivated. Stefan's mom called Darcy's mom to ask if she knew where Darcy went. Darcy's mom said Darcy had moved 2 states away to live with an aunt. She said Darcy needed a fresh start away from people who judged her. She said it was probably for the best. A week later, Darcy briefly reactivated her Instagram account. She posted one photo of a sunset with a caption about leaving toxic people behind and protecting her peace. Then she deactivated it again. Nobody in the family knew the exact town where she moved. Her mom wouldn't give out her new address. She said Darcy needed space. Stefan's mom was upset for a few days. She said she didn't get to say goodbye to Kara. She said she might never see her granddaughter again. Stefan reminded her that Kara wasn't technically her granddaughter since Harold wasn't the father, but his mom said she still felt connected to the baby after going to all the doctor appointments with Darcy. By August, things started feeling normal again. The Facebook posts were gone. Nobody brought up Darcy at family gatherings. Harold had moved to Colorado for his new job. Stefan and I went back to our regular routines. My coworkers stopped whispering when I walked into the break room. Stefan's mom came over for dinner in September. She said she had accepted that Darcy was gone and probably wouldn't come back. She said she hoped Darcy was doing okay wherever she was, but she also admitted that things were calmer without her around. She looked at me and said she should have defended me more when Darcy made that cake for Stefan's birthday. She said she always knew Darcy had a mean streak but she thought it would get better with time. She said she was wrong. Stefan and I are fine now. We don't talk about Darcy much. Stefan heard through his cousin that Harold is seeing someone new in Colorado and seems happy. The family is smaller now but quieter. Nobody asks me about the baby shower anymore. When Stefan's birthday came around again this past April, we didn't have a party. We just went out to dinner at a restaurant we like. It was simple and there was no drama. I don't know where Darcy is or what she's doing now. Her mom still won't share any information. Part of me wonders if she ever told Wallace he has a daughter. Part of me wonders if Kara will grow up knowing the truth about what happened. But mostly I don't think about it anymore. The whole thing is over. Darcy left town. Harold moved on. The Facebook posts are deleted. Life went back to normal. Now let's move to the next story. Story 2. My wife chose her 28-year-old nephew over our 22-year marriage and kicked me out of my own home office. I slept in the guest room and worked from the garage like a tenant in my own home. He even brought his girlfriend to live with us. My wife Sharon, 49F, kicked me, 52M, out of my own home office last Tuesday because her nephew Kyle, 28M, needed a quiet place to work on his freelance projects. She told me to set up my computer in the garage because Kyle's mental health was more important than my work meetings. I've been working from home for 3 years and that office has been mine since we bought this house. Kyle has been living with us for 8 months now. Let me give you the full story because I need to get this off my chest and maybe someone here can tell me if I'm going crazy. Kyle moved in with us last March after he got evicted from his apartment. Sharon's sister died when Kyle was 12 and Sharon basically raised him from then on. She always treated him like her own son even though we never had kids together. Kyle lived with us through high school and most of college until he moved out 5 years ago. When Kyle showed up at our door with 3 suitcases and a story about his landlord being unreasonable, Sharon immediately said he could stay with us. She didn't ask me. She just announced it at dinner that night like it was already decided. Kyle sat there nodding and said he just needed a few weeks to get back on his feet. Those few weeks turned into 8 months. Kyle works as a freelance graphic designer, which means he's home all day while Sharon and I work. At least I thought we both worked. Sharon started working from home more often after Kyle moved in. She said she wanted to make sure he had company and didn't get depressed being alone all day. The first month wasn't too bad. Kyle helped with groceries and cleaned the kitchen sometimes. He was quiet and kept to himself mostly. I figured he was embarrassed about his situation and trying to figure things out. Then things started changing. Kyle began complaining about everything. The house was too cold. The house was too hot. The neighbor's dog barked too much. The internet was too slow for his work. Sharon jumped to fix every single problem. She bought him a space heater for his room. She bought a better router. She even went next door and asked our neighbor Mrs. Chen to keep her dog inside more often. I told Sharon that Kyle was a grown man and could handle these things himself. She said I was being unsympathetic and that Kyle had been through a lot. She reminded me about his mother dying and how hard it was for him to ask for help. Around month 3, Kyle started eating all our food. Not just snacks or leftovers. He would eat entire meals that Sharon cooked for dinner before we got home from work. Sharon would come home to find empty pots and Kyle would say he got hungry waiting for us. Instead of telling him to wait or make his own food, Sharon started cooking double portions. Our grocery bill went from $200 a week to almost $400. When I pointed this out, Sharon said family comes first and that Kyle would contribute when his business picked up. Kyle nodded along and promised he was working on some big projects that would pay well soon. The big projects never materialized. Kyle also started having friends over constantly. Not 1 or 2 people. Groups of 6 or 7 20-somethings who would stay until 2 in the morning on weeknights. They would blast music, smoke on our porch, and leave beer cans everywhere. I work early shifts and need to be asleep by 10. The first time I asked Kyle to keep it down, he said he would. Nothing changed. The second time, I was more direct and told him the parties needed to stop on weeknights. Kyle went to Sharon and said I was making him feel unwelcome in his own home. Sharon told me I was being too rigid and that Kyle needed social interaction for his mental health. I started sleeping in the guest room because the noise kept me awake. Month 4 brought a new development. Kyle decided he needed the living room for his workspace because his bedroom didn't have good lighting. He moved his computer, drawing tablet, and all his art supplies into our main living area. The coffee table disappeared under stacks of his papers and sketches. The couch became his filing cabinet. I couldn't watch TV anymore because Kyle said the noise interfered with his creative process. Sharon bought him noise-canceling headphones, but Kyle said they gave him headaches. So the TV stayed off whenever Kyle was working, which was supposedly all day every day. Sharon and I used to watch the news together every evening and a cooking show on Sunday mornings. Those routines ended completely. Around month 5, Kyle announced he was struggling with anxiety and depression. He said the stress of being unemployed and living with relatives was affecting his mental health. Sharon immediately started researching therapists and support groups. She made appointments for him and drove him to sessions twice a week. Kyle also said he needed absolute quiet to focus on his work. This meant no vacuum cleaner during the day, no lawn mower before noon, and no phone calls in the common areas. Sharon enforced these rules strictly. She would shush me if I answered my phone in the kitchen or started the dishwasher during Kyle's work hours. I pointed out that Kyle seemed to have no trouble focusing when his friends were over making noise until midnight. Sharon said that was different because social connection was part of his healing process. The breaking point started building in month 6. Sharon began cooking Kyle's favorite meals every night. Not family dinners where we all ate the same thing. Special meals just for Kyle because he said regular food made his anxiety worse. She would make him chicken parmesan while we ate sandwiches. She would bake him cookies while telling me we needed to cut sugar from our diet. Kyle also developed very specific food requirements. He couldn't eat anything with onions because they upset his stomach. He needed organic vegetables because pesticides triggered his anxiety. He required a particular brand of coffee because other brands gave him jitters. Sharon bought everything he requested without question. Meanwhile, Kyle contributed exactly $0 to household expenses. Sharon paid for his therapy sessions. She bought his special food. She even gave him cash for gas money and art supplies. When I asked about Kyle's contribution, Sharon said he was family and family doesn't charge each other rent. I reminded Sharon that Kyle had been promising to contribute for months. She said I was putting too much pressure on him and that financial stress would worsen his mental health. Month 7 brought the office situation to a head. Kyle decided his freelance business needed a dedicated workspace. He couldn't work in the living room anymore because Sharon watched her morning shows and that was distracting. His bedroom wasn't professional enough for video calls with clients. He needed my home office. Sharon presented this to me as a done deal. She said Kyle's business was finally taking off and he needed proper space to succeed. She suggested I could work from the kitchen table or set up in the garage. I told Sharon absolutely not. My home office had my computer, my files, my desk setup that I needed for my actual job that actually paid our bills. Kyle could work from anywhere with a laptop. I couldn't. Sharon said I was being selfish and unsupportive. She accused me of resenting Kyle's success and trying to sabotage his recovery. She said a real husband would prioritize his wife's family. That's when Kyle joined the conversation. He said he understood my reluctance but his clients expected professionalism. He couldn't take video calls from a bedroom or kitchen. He needed the office space to build his business and become independent. I told Kyle he could rent an office space or work from a coffee shop like thousands of other freelancers. Kyle said those options were too expensive and too noisy. He needed the home office. Sharon supported Kyle completely. She said we had plenty of space and I was being territorial over a room. She reminded me that Kyle was trying to rebuild his life and needed our support. The argument lasted 3 hours. Sharon and Kyle tag-teamed me with reasons why I should give up my office. They had an answer for every objection I raised. They made me feel like I was the unreasonable one for wanting to keep my own workspace in my own house. I finally agreed to let Kyle use the office 2 days a week for important client meetings. Sharon said that wasn't enough. Kyle needed consistent access to build his routine and establish his business. We compromised on Kyle having the office Monday through Wednesday. I would work from the kitchen table those days. That compromise lasted exactly 1 week. Last Tuesday morning, I went to my office to start my workday and found Kyle already there. He had moved all my stuff to boxes in the corner and set up his equipment. When I asked what he was doing, Kyle said he had an urgent project that couldn't wait until his scheduled office days. I told Kyle he needed to move his stuff and stick to our agreement. Kyle said the project was worth $2,000 and could lead to more work. He asked if I could just work from the kitchen for 1 day. That 1 day became the whole week. Every morning Kyle had some urgent project or important client call that required the office. Every evening Sharon supported his need for the space. Friday afternoon I came home early and found Kyle playing video games in my office. Not working. Not taking client calls. Playing video games on my computer. I told Kyle to get out immediately. Kyle said he was taking a break between projects and would work later. I said breaks could happen in his bedroom or the living room. The office was supposed to be for work only. Kyle went to Sharon and said I was harassing him and interfering with his business. Sharon came to the office and told me I was creating unnecessary conflict. She said Kyle needed flexibility to manage his workload and I was being controlling. That's when Sharon told me to set up my computer in the garage permanently because Kyle needed the office full-time now. She said Kyle's business was growing and he couldn't keep switching locations. She said my work could be done anywhere but Kyle's required a professional environment. I asked Sharon when my needs started mattering less than Kyle's. She said it wasn't about that. She said Kyle was finally getting his life together and we needed to support him. She said I was being selfish and jealous of Kyle's progress. I pointed out that Kyle hadn't paid rent, utilities, or groceries in 8 months. I said Kyle's business wasn't successful enough to justify taking over my office. I said Kyle was taking advantage of Sharon's generosity. Sharon accused me of resenting Kyle and trying to sabotage his recovery. She said I was being cruel to someone who lost his mother and was struggling with mental health issues. She said I should be ashamed of putting my convenience over family loyalty. That's when I realized Sharon would always choose Kyle over me. Every time there was a conflict, Sharon sided with Kyle. Every time I raised concerns, Sharon made me the problem. Every time Kyle needed something, Sharon provided it without question. I've been sleeping in the guest room for months because of Kyle's parties. I've been eating sandwiches while Kyle gets home-cooked meals. I've been working from the kitchen table while Kyle uses my office. I've been tiptoeing around my own house to accommodate Kyle's needs. Sharon treats Kyle like he's her child and I'm just some guy who lives here. She prioritizes his comfort over mine. She defends his behavior no matter how unreasonable. She makes excuses for his lack of contribution while expecting me to sacrifice my space and peace. I don't know what to do anymore. Sharon won't listen to my concerns. Kyle won't respect any boundaries. I feel like a stranger in my own home. Is this my marriage now? Am I supposed to live like this until Kyle decides to move out? Because Kyle shows no signs of leaving. Why would he? He has free housing, free food, free utilities, a dedicated workspace, and a personal advocate who defends his every action. I need advice because I can't keep living like this, but I don't know how to fix it. Update 1: A lot has happened since my original post and I need to update everyone who gave me advice. Some of you are right about things getting worse before they get better. Last Monday morning I woke up to find my car missing from the driveway. I checked the garage thinking maybe I parked it there and forgot. No car. I looked around the neighborhood thinking maybe someone moved it for street cleaning. Still no car. I asked Sharon if she knew where my car was. She said Kyle borrowed it for a client meeting across town. She said his car was having issues and he needed reliable transportation for an important presentation. Kyle doesn't have a car. He sold it 3 months ago because he couldn't afford the payments. Sharon and I have been driving him everywhere since then. Doctor appointments, grocery runs, social events. We became his personal taxi service. I told Sharon that Kyle should have asked me before taking my car. She said Kyle didn't want to wake me up because I'd been stressed lately. She said it was just for a few hours and I was overreacting. Kyle returned my car at dinner time with an empty gas tank and a scratch on the passenger door. When I pointed out the scratch, Kyle said it was already there and he didn't notice it. The scratch wasn't there before because I wash my car every weekend and check for damage. Kyle also left fast food wrappers in my car and adjusted all my seat and mirror settings. The radio was tuned to some rap station that hurt my ears when I started the engine the next morning. I told Kyle he needed to ask permission before using my car and fill the gas tank when he returned it. Kyle said he would remember that next time. Sharon said I was being petty about family sharing resources. Tuesday brought another surprise. I came home from work to find Kyle had painted his bedroom bright orange without asking. The smell of paint filled the entire house. Kyle said orange was better for his creativity and mental health. Our house has neutral colors throughout. Beige walls, white trim, hardwood floors. We spent months choosing a color scheme when we bought the place. Now Kyle's room looks like a traffic cone in the middle of our tasteful home. Sharon said Kyle needed to personalize his space to feel comfortable. She said paint could be changed later if needed. She bought Kyle additional art supplies to decorate his newly orange room. Wednesday I discovered Kyle had been using my credit card for online purchases. Sharon gave him my card information for art supplies and Kyle ordered $300 worth of equipment without asking. Professional brushes, specialty paper, digital software subscriptions. I found out when my credit card company called about unusual activity. Kyle had been making small purchases for weeks. Coffee shop visits, movie tickets, clothing orders. Sharon authorized every purchase by giving Kyle my card details. I canceled my credit card immediately and demanded Kyle pay back every unauthorized purchase. Kyle said he thought Sharon had cleared everything with me. Sharon said she forgot to mention the smaller purchases and I was making a big deal over nothing. The $300 art supply order arrived Thursday. Kyle acted like Christmas morning unwrapping boxes of expensive brushes and specialty papers. He thanked Sharon for supporting his artistic development. He didn't mention paying me back. Friday brought the biggest shock yet. I came home early because I had a dentist appointment and found Kyle in bed with some woman in what used to be my home office. They weren't just sleeping. They were making enough noise that I heard them from the hallway. I knocked loudly and told them to get dressed because this was inappropriate. Kyle yelled through the door that he was working and I should come back later. Working. That's what he called it. The woman left through the back door while Kyle got dressed. Kyle came out acting like nothing happened. He said he was taking a break between projects and I misunderstood the situation. I told Kyle that bringing women to our house for hookups was completely unacceptable. Kyle said he was an adult and could have female friends over. He said I was being judgmental and old-fashioned. Sharon came home to find Kyle and me in a heated discussion about boundaries and appropriate behavior. Kyle told Sharon I was harassing him about his personal life and making him feel unwelcome. Sharon took Kyle's side immediately. She said Kyle was a grown man entitled to privacy and companionship. She said I was being invasive and controlling. She suggested I should have knocked instead of barging into his workspace. I pointed out that it used to be my office and Kyle was having sex in there during work hours. Sharon said the room was Kyle's space now and I needed to respect his privacy. She said Kyle's personal relationships were none of my business. That evening I overheard Sharon on the phone with her sister talking about me. Sharon said I was being difficult and jealous of Kyle's success. She said I was making Kyle's recovery harder by creating unnecessary conflict. She said she was worried about Kyle's mental health because of my negative attitude. Sharon never mentioned Kyle's unauthorized credit card use, car borrowing, or inappropriate office activities. She painted me as the unreasonable one causing problems for no reason. Saturday morning I tried talking to Sharon privately about everything that happened that week. I explained that Kyle was crossing boundaries and taking advantage of our generosity. I said Kyle needed rules and consequences like any other houseguest. Sharon accused me of making a list of complaints to use against Kyle. She said I was looking for reasons to kick Kyle out because I never wanted him here. She said I was being selfish and unsupportive when Kyle needed family most. I asked Sharon when Kyle was planning to move out. She said Kyle was finally building his business and needed stability to succeed. She said pushing Kyle to leave would damage his progress and mental health. I asked Sharon what Kyle had actually accomplished in 8 months. No steady income, no savings, no plan for independence. Kyle was living like a teenager while Sharon enabled his behavior. Sharon said Kyle was working hard and making progress. She said his art was improving and he was getting more client interest. She said I didn't understand creative work and artistic development. Sunday I found Kyle using my laptop because his computer was updating software. Kyle had downloaded games, changed my desktop background, and installed programs I didn't recognize. He also saved his personal files in my documents folder. I told Kyle to use his own equipment and stop touching mine. Kyle said he was just borrowing it temporarily and would ask next time. He said his computer was slow and mine worked better for his projects. I changed all my passwords and put locks on my office door. Sharon said I was being paranoid and creating artificial barriers. She said families should trust each other and share resources freely. This morning Sharon told me Kyle needed a key to my office because he was expecting an important client call and couldn't wait for me to unlock the door. She said I was sabotaging Kyle's business success with my security measures. I told Sharon that Kyle had lost office privileges after the incident on Friday. Sharon said I was punishing Kyle for having a personal life. She said I was being controlling and unreasonable. We're not talking much anymore. Sharon spends most of her time with Kyle discussing his projects and planning his future. I eat dinner alone while they strategize about his artistic career in the living room. Kyle acts like he owns this house now. He brings friends over whenever he wants. He uses our belongings without asking. He makes demands about temperature, noise, and food. Sharon fulfills every request while treating my concerns as personal attacks. Several people commented on my original post asking about finances. Kyle owes us over $2,000 in unpaid rent based on market rates for similar rooms. He owes me $800 in unauthorized credit card purchases. He owes about $1,500 in extra grocery costs over 8 months. Kyle owes us roughly $4,300 and shows no signs of paying anything back. When I mentioned this to Sharon, she said putting monetary value on family relationships was disgusting. She said Kyle would contribute when he was financially stable. I don't think Kyle wants to become financially stable. Why would he? He has everything he needs without paying for any of it. He has a dedicated workspace, meal service, housekeeping, transportation, and unlimited emotional support from Sharon. I'm starting to think this situation won't resolve itself. Kyle isn't going to leave voluntarily. Sharon isn't going to enforce boundaries or expectations. I'm the only one unhappy with this arrangement. Some of you suggested marriage counseling in the comments. I brought this up to Sharon last week. She said counseling was expensive and unnecessary. She said our marriage was fine except for my attitude toward Kyle. Sharon thinks I'm the problem. Kyle thinks I'm the problem. Maybe I am the problem. Maybe I should just accept that this is my life now and stop complaining. But I can't. I can't live like a tenant in my own home. I can't watch my marriage become secondary to Kyle's needs. I can't pretend this is normal or healthy. I don't know what my next move should be. Any advice would be appreciated because I'm running out of options here. Update 2: things have gotten much worse and I need to tell you what happened because some of you saw this coming in your comments. 3 weeks ago Sharon announced that Kyle was depressed because he felt like a burden on our household. She said Kyle needed to feel more valued and appreciated for his contributions. I asked what contributions because Kyle still hadn't paid for anything or done any significant housework. Sharon said Kyle contributed emotional support and creative energy to our home. She said Kyle helped her feel young and inspired. She said Kyle brought joy and laughter that had been missing from our marriage. That stung because Sharon and I used to laugh together all the time. We used to take weekend trips and try new restaurants. We used to stay up late talking about our plans and dreams. All of that stopped when Kyle moved in because Sharon focused all her attention on him. Sharon decided Kyle needed a formal role in our household to boost his confidence. She made Kyle the household manager responsible for organizing meals, scheduling maintenance, and coordinating social activities. Kyle accepted this imaginary position enthusiastically. Kyle immediately started making rules about how we should run our house. Quiet hours extended from 9 p.m. to 11 a.m. for his sleep schedule. Grocery shopping happened on Sundays only so Kyle could plan meals for the week. Social visits required 24-hour notice so Kyle could prepare mentally. Sharon enforced Kyle's rules strictly. When my brother stopped by unexpectedly on Saturday, Sharon made him wait outside while she asked Kyle if visitors were acceptable that day. Kyle grudgingly agreed to a 30-minute visit maximum. 2 weeks ago Kyle announced he was bringing his girlfriend Emma, 26F, to live with us temporarily. Kyle said Emma was being evicted from her apartment and needed somewhere to stay while she looked for new housing. Sharon immediately agreed without consulting me. Emma moved in last Monday with 3 suitcases and a cat. Nobody asked if I was okay with pets. Emma's cat is not litter trained and has been using our house as a giant bathroom. The smell hits you when you walk through the front door. Emma works part-time at a coffee shop and spends the rest of her time sleeping or watching Netflix in the living room. She eats our food, uses our utilities, and contributes nothing to household expenses. Kyle says Emma is stressed about her housing situation and we should be patient. Sharon treats Emma like a second daughter. She bought Emma special shampoo and body wash. She gave Emma towels and bedding from our linen closet. She even moved some of her jewelry to Emma's room so Emma could borrow accessories for work. I now live with 3 adults who don't pay rent, utilities, or groceries. Kyle and Emma have taken over the living room completely. My office became Kyle's studio. The guest room where I sleep smells like cat waste. The kitchen is always full of their friends hanging out and making noise. Last week I tried to have a serious conversation with Sharon about our living situation. I pointed out that we were supporting 2 able-bodied adults who could work full-time and support themselves. I said this arrangement was unsustainable financially and personally. Sharon accused me of being unwelcoming to people who needed help. She said Kyle and Emma were going through difficult times and deserved our support. She said I was being selfish and materialistic by focusing on money instead of family loyalty. I asked Sharon when Kyle and Emma were planning to move out. Sharon said they were working on their situations but needed time to save money and find appropriate housing. She said rushing them would be cruel and counterproductive. I pointed out that Kyle had been saying the same thing for 10 months. Sharon said Kyle was making progress with his art business and just needed patience. She said Emma was looking for better employment and just needed encouragement. Friday night Kyle and Emma threw a housewarming party for their friends. 20-something people filled our house drinking beer and playing loud music until 3 a.m. They used our backyard for smoking and left cigarette butts everywhere. Someone vomited in our guest bathroom and nobody cleaned it up. I asked Kyle to end the party at midnight because I had early meetings on Saturday. Kyle said the party was just getting started and everyone was having fun. He said I could sleep upstairs with earplugs if the noise bothered me. Sharon supported Kyle's right to celebrate his new living situation. She said young people needed social connection and I was being an old grouch. She bought extra beer and snacks for Kyle's friends and helped him set up music speakers. Saturday morning I woke up to find our house destroyed. Empty bottles and cans everywhere. Food ground into our carpet. Furniture moved around and damaged. The kitchen sink full of dirty dishes and cigarette ashes. Kyle and Emma were still sleeping when I started cleaning up. Sharon helped me for about an hour before giving up and going shopping. I spent my entire Saturday cleaning up after Kyle's party while Kyle and Emma slept until dinner time. When Kyle finally woke up, he thanked me for cleaning and said the party was a huge success. He said his friends loved our house and wanted to come back soon. Kyle acted like I was the party cleanup service instead of the homeowner who got stuck with the mess. Sunday I told Sharon this had to stop. I said Kyle and Emma needed to move out within 30 days. I said I was done supporting adults who treated our house like a free hotel with maid service. Sharon said I was being unreasonable and cruel. She said Kyle and Emma had nowhere else to go and kicking them out would damage their mental health. She said I was prioritizing my comfort over family welfare. I reminded Sharon that Emma wasn't family and Kyle was supposed to be temporary. Sharon said Emma was Kyle's partner and therefore family by extension. She said temporary had become permanent because Kyle needed long-term stability. Monday morning I found Kyle in my home office again despite the locks I installed. Kyle had somehow gotten a key and moved all his equipment back into my workspace. When I asked how he got in, Kyle said Sharon gave him a spare key because he needed access for important client work. I told Sharon she had no right to give Kyle keys to my locked office. Sharon said the office belonged to both of us and she could give access to whoever needed it. She said I was being controlling and paranoid about a simple workspace. That's when I realized Sharon had completely chosen Kyle over me. She would override any boundary I set. She would undermine any rule I tried to enforce. She would give Kyle whatever he wanted regardless of how it affected me. Tuesday, I spoke with a lawyer about my options. The lawyer said Kyle and Emma were legal tenants now because they'd been living here over 30 days. Getting them out would require formal eviction proceedings that could take months. The lawyer also explained that Sharon had equal rights to our house and could invite anyone she wanted to live here. Unless Kyle or Emma committed crimes or violated lease terms, I couldn't force them to leave without Sharon's cooperation. Wednesday, I tried one last conversation with Sharon about our marriage. I explained that I felt like a stranger in my own home. I said Kyle and Emma had taken over our space and our relationship. I asked if Sharon missed spending time together, just the two of us. Sharon said our marriage was stronger because we were helping family members in need. She said Kyle and Emma brought energy and purpose to our lives. She said I was being negative and resistant to positive changes. I asked Sharon what would happen if I moved out. Sharon said that would be my choice, but Kyle and Emma would stay because they needed stability. She said running away wouldn't solve my attitude problems. Yesterday I started looking at apartments for rent. I found a one-bedroom place about 10 minutes from my office. The rent is $1,200 per month, which I can afford on my income alone. This morning I told Sharon I was moving out next weekend. Sharon asked if this was some kind of threat or ultimatum. I said it wasn't a threat. I was just informing her of my decision. Sharon said I was abandoning our marriage over temporary houseguests. She said Kyle and Emma would eventually move out and things would return to normal. She said I was being dramatic and making permanent decisions based on temporary situations. I asked Sharon how long temporary meant to her. She couldn't give me a timeline. She said Kyle and Emma needed time to establish themselves financially. She said rushing them would be unfair and harmful. I told Sharon I would continue paying the mortgage and utilities so she could afford to keep the house. I said Kyle and Emma could start contributing their share since they were permanent residents now. Sharon accused me of trying to force Kyle and Emma out through financial pressure. She said charging family members rent was greedy and inappropriate. She said I was trying to control people through money. Kyle overheard our conversation and joined in. He said my moving out proved I never cared about family loyalty. He said Sharon deserved better than a husband who abandoned her during difficult times. He said I was selfish and immature. Emma also offered her opinion. She said my negative energy was toxic for everyone in the house. She said Kyle and Sharon were happier without my constant complaints. She said I should leave if I couldn't appreciate their hospitality. So that's where things stand. I'm moving out this weekend. Sharon, Kyle, and Emma will have the house to themselves. Sharon can focus entirely on supporting Kyle's artistic career and Emma's employment search without my interference. Part of me hopes Sharon will realize what she's lost when I'm gone. Part of me thinks she's already replaced me with Kyle as her primary relationship. Either way, I can't keep living like this. Some of you predicted this outcome in your earlier comments. You were right that the situation would escalate until someone had to leave. I never thought it would be me leaving my own house, but here we are. I'll update again once I'm settled in my new place and see how Sharon handles the financial reality of supporting 3 adults on her income alone. Update 3: I moved out 4 months ago and wanted to give you a final update on how everything turned out because some of you have been following this story from the beginning. The first month in my apartment was difficult. I had to buy new furniture and household items since I left most everything at the house. My place was quiet though. Nobody woke me up with parties. Nobody used my belongings without asking. Nobody made demands about temperature or noise levels. Sharon called me twice during that first month. Both calls were about money. The first call was 2 weeks after I moved out when she realized the mortgage payment was larger than she expected. Sharon asked if I could increase my contribution because Kyle and Emma still weren't working full time. I told Sharon the amount I was paying covered my legal obligation for the mortgage. Any additional expenses were her responsibility since she chose to support 2 extra adults. Sharon said I was being vindictive and punishing Kyle and Emma for my marital problems. The second call was 3 weeks later when their utility bills arrived. The electric bill was $340 for 1 month because Kyle needed professional lighting for his art studio and Emma kept the heat at 78 degrees. The water bill was $180 because Kyle took long showers and Emma did laundry every day. Sharon asked if I could help with utilities since my name was still on the accounts. I said I would transfer the utilities to her name and she could manage them independently. Sharon said that wasn't fair because Kyle and Emma couldn't afford to pay utilities yet. I had the utilities transferred the next week. Sharon had to put deposits down and set up payment plans because the bills were higher than her monthly income could handle. 6 weeks after I moved out, Sharon's sister Lisa called me. Lisa said Sharon was struggling financially and emotionally. Kyle and Emma weren't contributing anything to household expenses. Sharon was working overtime to cover the mortgage and bills. Sharon was also doing all the housework because Kyle and Emma were too busy with their careers. Lisa said Kyle's art business wasn't generating income despite his professional workspace and expensive equipment. Kyle spent most days playing video games and hanging out with friends. Emma had quit her coffee shop job because she said the manager was mean to her. Lisa asked if I would consider moving back home to help Sharon. I told Lisa that Sharon made her choice when she prioritized Kyle over our marriage. I said Sharon could ask Kyle and Emma to contribute or ask them to leave. Lisa said Sharon wouldn't ask Kyle to leave because she felt responsible for his well-being after his mother died. Lisa said Sharon was trapped by her own guilt and loyalty. Lisa asked if I could talk to Kyle directly about contributing financially. I told Lisa that Kyle wasn't my responsibility anymore. Sharon created this situation by enabling Kyle's behavior and ignoring my concerns. Sharon would have to figure out how to resolve it herself. 2 months after I moved out, my neighbor Mrs. Chen called to tell me what was happening at the house. Mrs. Chen said Kyle and Emma were having loud arguments every night. Police had been called twice for domestic disturbance reports from other neighbors. Mrs. Chen also said the house looked terrible from outside. The lawn wasn't being mowed. Trash was piling up by the garage. Kyle's friends were parking in neighbors' driveways and leaving beer cans in their yards. Mrs. Chen asked if I was planning to return because the neighborhood was being affected by the situation. I told Mrs. Chen I had moved out permanently and she should contact Sharon about any problems. 3 months after I moved out, Sharon called me crying. She said Kyle and Emma had destroyed the house and disappeared. Kyle owed money to several people who had been calling and threatening Sharon. Emma's cat had caused thousands of dollars in damage to carpets and furniture. Sharon said she found drug paraphernalia in Kyle's room after he left. She said Kyle had been using our house for dealing drugs to his friends. She said Emma had been stealing items from the house and selling them online. Sharon asked if I would help her clean up the house and repair the damage. She said she couldn't afford professional cleaning services or contractors. She said she was sorry for not listening to my concerns about Kyle. I told Sharon I was sorry she was going through this, but I couldn't help her. I said she would need to handle the situation herself just like she handled everything else without consulting me. Sharon asked if we could work on our marriage now that Kyle was gone. She said she realized she had made mistakes and wanted to try counseling. She said she missed our relationship and wanted to rebuild what we had. I told Sharon that our marriage ended when she chose Kyle over me repeatedly for almost a year. I said I had tried to work with her on the situation and she dismissed every concern I raised. I said too much damage had been done for me to consider reconciliation. Last month Sharon put the house up for sale. She couldn't afford the mortgage and repairs on her income alone. She also couldn't find Kyle to pursue legal action for the drug activity and property damage. Sharon moved in with her sister Lisa temporarily while the house sells. The real estate agent said it would take months to sell because of the damage and the market conditions. Yesterday Sharon texted me asking if I wanted any of my belongings from the house before it sold. I told Sharon to donate anything I left behind. I had already replaced what I needed and didn't want reminders of that situation. Sharon also asked if I would sign papers waiving my claim to proceeds from the house sale. She said she needed all the money to pay for repairs and legal fees. I told Sharon to have her lawyer contact my lawyer about property division. Some of you asked in previous comments why I stayed as long as I did. Looking back, I think I kept hoping Sharon would realize what was happening and choose our marriage over Kyle's demands. I thought if I was patient enough, Sharon would see that Kyle was taking advantage of her generosity in our relationship. I was wrong. Sharon was so focused on being Kyle's savior that she couldn't see how it was destroying everything else. She turned Kyle into her primary relationship and treated me like an inconvenience that interfered with her caregiving mission. The house sold last week for $40,000 less than we paid for it because of the damage and necessary repairs. Sharon will barely break even after paying real estate fees and fixing what Kyle and Emma destroyed. She's still living with her sister and looking for a smaller apartment she can afford on her income. Kyle contacted me once through social media asking if I would write a character reference letter for him. He said he was trying to rent a new apartment and needed references from responsible adults. I blocked him immediately. Emma tried to friend me on Facebook last month. Her profile showed she was living in another state with a different boyfriend. I blocked her too. I've been in my apartment for 4 months now and my life is completely different. I wake up when I want to. I eat what I want to eat. I watch whatever I want on TV. I have friends over without asking permission or worrying about noise levels. My home is peaceful and belongs to me. I started dating someone new 2 months ago. Janet is a divorce teacher who understands boundaries and personal space. She has her own apartment and her own life. We enjoy each other's company without either of us trying to fix or rescue the other person. Janet asked me recently if I missed being married. I told her I missed being married to the Sharon I knew before Kyle moved in. The Sharon who laughed at my jokes and planned weekend trips with me. The Sharon who cared about my opinions and respected my feelings. That Sharon disappeared when Kyle became her full-time project. People at work have commented that I seem happier and more relaxed. My boss said my work performance has improved significantly since I moved out. I didn't realize how much stress I was carrying from living in that situation every day. Sharon sent me a Christmas card this year with a long handwritten note apologizing for everything that happened. She said she understood now that she chose Kyle over our marriage repeatedly. She said she was sorry for dismissing my concerns and enabling Kyle's behavior. She asked if we could meet for coffee to talk about everything. I didn't respond to Sharon's card. An apology doesn't undo 22 years of marriage ending because she prioritized her nephew's comfort over her husband's well-being. An apology doesn't give me back the year I spent feeling like a stranger in my own home. Some people might think I should forgive Sharon and try to rebuild our relationship. Some people might think marriage means working through problems no matter what. I tried working through problems for almost a year while Sharon chose Kyle over me every single time. I'm 53 years old and I don't want to spend whatever years I have left waiting for someone to choose me over their other priorities. I don't want to live with someone who needs a crisis to realize my value. I don't want to rebuild a marriage with someone who threw it away so easily. My life is better now. Quieter, simpler, and completely under my control. I don't have to negotiate with anyone about using my own belongings or sleeping in my own bed. I don't have to watch someone I love prioritize everyone else's needs over mine. For those of you who followed this story from the beginning, thank you for the advice and support. Many of you predicted exactly how this would end. You were right that some situations can't be fixed with patience and compromise. You were right that enabling never helps anyone in the long run. Kyle is Sharon's problem now, not mine. Whatever happens with his life or her financial situation, I'm not involved anymore. I made my choice to leave and I'm sticking with it. This will be my final update. I'm closing this chapter of my life and moving forward with the lessons I learned. Sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is walk away from people who don't value what you bring to their lives.